Sweet pet little white, 1v1, childhood sweetheart, falling in love and killing each other, pseudo-obedient girl versus fake high-cold real academic bully. Lin Yuejian borrowed Chen Xingyu's house. When she moved into the Chen family on the first day, Mr. Chen said, "It was arranged by Mr. Chen next door, don't think too much." Lin Yuejian said. "Okay." Later, Master Chen said, "Don't call me my brother, don't say I'm very familiar with you outside, let alone we live together." Lin Yuejian said. "Okay." Master Chen said, "Don't come to me if you have nothing to do. Don't come to me if you have anything to do. In short, don't come to me if you have anything to do." Lin Yuejian said, "Oh." From then on, she took a detour when she saw Mr. Chen. Someone asked her about her relationship with Chen Xingyu, and Lin Yu opened her mouth and said, "It's okay. Everyone believes it." Until one day, someone saw Chen Xingyu following behind Lin Yuejian's buttocks and said pitifully, "Little darling, can you take care of me?" Lin Yu ignored him as she didn't hear him. Young Master Chen couldn't bear it anymore and blocked the person in the corner, forcing him to ask, "Why do you always hide from me?" Lin Yuejian said, "This is what you said. I am obediently listening to you." Chen Xingyu said, "Is it still possible for me to withdraw now?" Whispering BB. UU is a brief waste, why not click in and take a look? Keywords of the novel. His Little Sweetness without pop-ups, His Little Sweetness with full download of TXT, His Little Sweetness with the latest chapters to read. Chapter 1. Didn't your father give you rice to eat? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Didn't your father give you rice to eat? Go up, get him. Get him. Catch the shooter first. Wait for me, I'll be there soon. Damn it, did you really walk here? It's so slow, I'll be dead waiting for you to come. I rode a horse here. At the end of August, Yunjiang City was in summer. The internet cafe is filled with keyboard sounds, game sound effects, and players cursing. In an inconspicuous corner, the boy sat on an esports chair, wearing headphones and a slight chill between his eyebrows, playing games casually. Suddenly, a phone call came in. The young man ignored it and quickly tapped his fingers on the keyboard. After winning the game, he took off his headphones and picked up the nearby phone to answer the call. He lazily said, "Hello." I don't know what was said on the other end of the phone, but he replied, "I understand." He kicked off his chair, picked up a cigarette, and walked out. My friend withdrew without saying a word and quickly took off his earphones, asking, "Brother you, why are you going? Pick someone up." Chen Xing didn't turn his head and spoke lazily. "Oh, Zhou, you didn't ask much and went with Chen Xingyu." Coming out of the internet cafe, Chen Xingyu stopped a taxi on the roadside. Address: Yunjiang Airport. The flight from Wuhu to Yunjiang City will arrive on time at 6 o'clock. When Chen Xing met him, it was only 5:55 and his phone screen was on, with a photo of a little girl on it. She is very beautiful, with fair skin and big eyes and long eyelashes. There is a far cry from his impression. The airport was bustling with people coming and going, making it very noisy. Chen Xingyu stood at the airport pick-up gate, a bit worried that he wouldn't recognize the person. Just as he was considering whether to raise a sign and write someone's name like others, he saw a petite and beautiful girl in the crowd. He is a bit short, if it weren't for his beautiful appearance, he would almost be invisible in the crowd. After looking at his phone and then at the little girl looking west in the middle of the crowd, Chen Xing clicked. Surprisingly, the photo didn't have a beautiful appearance. I even look a bit better than the photo. However, Chen Xingyu didn't think much. He lifted his foot and strode over with a clear and emotionless voice, "See you in Lin Yu." A pleasant voice suddenly came from above, making Lin Yu instinctively look up. So she suddenly bumped into those beautiful and slightly cold eyes. The young man is very tall, more than a head taller than her, and she looks up at him. But that face. So handsome that her mind went blank. After waiting for a few seconds and seeing that she didn't react, Chen Xingyu spoke again with a cold voice and a hint of politeness. Hello, may I ask if it's Lin Yuejian? Ah. Lin Yu regained her senses and realized that the other person was calling her. She quickly nodded and replied. I am. Just as she watched someone lose focus, the little girl felt embarrassed and said, So, are you? I feel a bit familiar, but I can't remember who it is. He watched her silently for 2 seconds before introducing himself, Chen Xingyu. Compared to just now, the voice was not only cold, but also a bit more speechless. After speaking, he turned around and walked out. Lin Yuejian quickly dragged her luggage to follow. I don't know if it's her illusion, but she felt like Chen Xingyu was looking at an idiot just now. The young man was tall and had long legs. He walked with a gentle breeze, but Lin Yu noticed that his legs were short and he still had a burden on him. In no time, he fell far behind. As the gap widened, Lin Yuejian could only shout, Brother Xingyu, wait for me. Chen Xingyu paused at the sound and turned around to take a look. He noticed that the little girl was several meters away from him, and his eyebrows furrowed slightly. He glanced at the legs under the pleated skirt. It's thin, white, and straight, just. Why is it so short? I have a fight with Kai Wenji. Seeing him stop and wait for her, Lin Yuejian pulled her suitcase and ran towards him. Chen Xingyu wanted to laugh even more. How could you be so short? Running is silly and cute. When the little girl arrived before and after him, he measured with his gaze and found that his chin was not as high as his. After going to Wuhu for a few years, besides becoming beautiful and white, my height hasn't changed at all. Of course, it's not that Lin Yuejian hasn't grown taller, it's that the height difference between her and Chen Xingyu hasn't changed. Did your father not give you rice to eat? Ah. Chen Xingyu's endless words made Lin Yuejian a bit confused. She looked at him with a pair of clear and bright starry eyes, innocent and innocent. 2 seconds later, she replied seriously, Here it is. I eat 3 big bowls of rice every day. Puff. Chen Xingyu couldn't help but burst out laughing, adding a touch of approachability to his cold exterior. He reached out and pulled away her suitcase, then turned around and continued walking outside, lazily throwing a sentence. Are you still so short after eating 3 bowls of rice? Lin Yuejian said, What? It took her 10 seconds to realize what Chen Xingyu's series of actions just now meant. He. In. Laugh. She's short. Ah, how angry. I want to jump up and give him 2 punches. Thinking this way, Lin Yuejian really waved her fist at Chen Xingyu's back. Coincidentally, Chen Xingyu turned around and was so frightened that Lin Yuejian immediately hid her fist behind her and smiled at him with curved eyebrows and eyes. The little girl is really beautiful, and she smiled as if the sky had cleared up. Chen Xingyu glanced at her hand without revealing it. Just lazily reminded, I'm not leaving yet, I won't be able to keep up again later. Lin Yuejian was still angry at him for mocking her for being short, but she had to bow down when she thought of living under his roof for the next 2 years. With an "oh" sound, he reluctantly followed along. Lin Yuejian is a native of Yunjiang, but 4 years ago when her parents went to Wuhu to do business, she also went there to study. In the past 2 years, there have been some changes at home, and neither of her parents care about her. Coincidentally, she didn't want to take her with her in Wuhu, so she suggested returning to Yunjiang City. Parents naturally have no reason to disagree, but there are no relatives here, so they entrusted her to Uncle Chen next door. That is to say, Chen Xing met his father. If nothing unexpected happens, Lin Yuejian will probably stay at Uncle Chen's house for 2 years until graduating from high school. Uncle Chen is currently on a business trip out of town, and it's hard to say when he will be back. After leaving the airport, Chen Xingyu said, I'll take you home first, put away your things, and then go eat. Lin Yuejian became a robot with no emotions, and whenever Chen Xingyu said anything, she nodded and said, "Good," looking very well behaved. Along the way, the two had no communication. Chen Xingyu focused on his phone, while Lin Yuejian looked out the window at the scenery. In just 4 years, Yunjiang City has undergone significant changes, leaping from a 4th-tier city to a 2nd-tier city, and is no longer what Lin Yuejian remembers. Uncle Chen's house is no longer the same small house as before, but a 3-story small Western-style house, exquisite and beautiful. Returning home, Chen Xingyu took Lin Yuejian to the 3rd floor. "This is your room, let's see if there's anything missing. I'll take you to buy it later." Lin Yuejian nodded obediently and said, "Okay, thank you, brother Xingyu." Chen Xingyu is 1 year older than her, and according to her seniority, she should call him brother. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Old Friends. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Old Friends. Just listening to the nickname given by Xing Fun, Chen Xingyu frowned slightly, feeling a little unhappy in his heart. However, he didn't pay much attention and continued, "My room is right next to yours. If you have anything to do, you can come to me." "Okay," Lin Yu said after thinking for a moment and confirming that there was nothing to explain. Chen Xingyu said, "Then you pack your things first, and I'll go back to my room." Lin Yuejian nodded and said, Chen Xingyu. How do you feel colder than him? Chen Xingyu returned to his room with suspicion, and as he closed the door, he suddenly thought of something and added, "It was arranged by old Chen." After finishing speaking, he closed the room door. Lin Yuejian struggled at the door for a while before understanding the meaning of his words. "Don't think too much, the room was arranged by Uncle Chen, and it was purely a coincidence that it was next door to him." Lin Yuejian said, She didn't say anything and dragged her luggage into the bedroom. The bedroom has been carefully decorated with tulips as the theme, creating a room full of summer atmosphere. Lin Yuejian really likes it. Put down the suitcase and open it, then start packing up. She didn't have much, except for some clothes and necessary supplies. She packed them up in less than half an hour. The window of the room should be facing west, just in time to see the afterglow of the sun dyeing the sky orange. Lin Yuejian took out her phone and took 2 photos. Before she could take a closer look, the room door was knocked on. Because it was concealed, Chen Xingyu automatically turned on as soon as he touched it. Lin Yu turned around and happened to meet his gaze. Chen Xingyu inexplicably felt a little embarrassed. He put down his habit of learning and put it into his pocket, calmly asking, "I'm going out. Do you want to come with me?" Lin Yu thought for a moment that she didn't know him well, and going out together might be awkward, so she wanted to refuse. However, before she could speak, she heard him say it. "No one at home cooks, if you don't come with me, you'll have to handle dinner on your own." Her tone was indifferent, without any emotion, just a simple notification to her. Lin Yuejian had to put away her refusal and change it to, "Go, but can you wait for me? I sweated a lot while catching the plane today and my body is a bit dirty." The little girl spoke slowly, soft and gentle, which was very different from what Chen Xingyu remembered of her. But he didn't think much, just nodded and said, "I'll wait for you in the living room on the 1st floor." After speaking, he turned around and left. Lin Yuejian didn't even have time to say hello. She could only silently swallow the words back into her stomach and then take her clothes to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, the little girl changed into a clean and tidy outfit and came down from upstairs. Chen Xingyu, who was playing with his phone, instinctively looked up when he heard the commotion. Lin Yuejian changed into a light pink floral dress, with long hair tied high and revealing a fair and slender neck. Skin color, shining white. The first impression it gives is stunning. Chen Xingyu glanced away and casually looked up and down at the opposite sex, which was very impolite. He stood up and said, "Let's go." Lin Yu nodded and followed Chen Xing out of the door. On the way, Chen Xingyu told her to go have a meal first. Besides them, she also had a few friends, some of whom she knew. Lin Yu was surprised and thought to herself that she hadn't returned to Yunjiang for several years. How could she still have friends she also knew? Chen Xingyu didn't elaborate, but she could also guess who it was. I am inexplicably looking forward to meeting those friends. Half an hour later, Chen Xingyu and Lin Yuejian walked into a small restaurant called Eating on Time. Although it's a meal now, there aren't many people in the small restaurant and it's relatively quiet. As soon as the two of them entered the door, someone waved at them. Brother Yu, here. Chen Xingyu and Lin Yuejian looked at the source of the sound together. A young man wearing a floral shirt, who looks quite handsome, has two tiger teeth when he smiles, and at first glance, he looks very cute. He seemed to be afraid that Chen Xingyu wouldn't be able to see him, ignoring the strange looks of others. He kept waving and shouting, Brother Yu, this and this, we're here. Chen Xingyu. He lifted his feet and walked over, probably accustomed to the behavior of the youth, without saying anything. The young man chose a corner seat, a large round table, and it was not a problem for 8 or 9 people to sit. Apart from the boy shouting, there are 3 more people. 1 man and 2 women. One of the girls with 2 braids kicked off her chair and rushed over as soon as she saw Lin Yu, Xiaoyu. Before Lin Yuejian could react, she was hugged by the girl. The girl was very excited and said, Ah, Xiaoya, you have finally come back. I thought we would never see each other again. Lin Yu felt a bit suffocated from being strangled and said, Well, you're holding it too tightly. Upon hearing this, the girl quickly released her grip and awkwardly smiled, Hee, I'm too excited. I'm sorry. Lin Yuejian said, It's okay. After being embarrassed, the girl regained her innocent and romantic smile and said, Do you remember me? I'm Ying. Lin Yuejian nodded and said, Of course I do. We just haven't seen each other for a few years, how could we not remember? Although the faces in front of them were somewhat unfamiliar and everyone had undergone significant changes, they were still recognizable. Ying was very happy. I'll just say it. Just now, I gently said you won't remember us. Song Qing, who was sitting on a chair with a lying gun, said, Lin Yu only then turned her gaze to Song Qing. The two exchanged a glance, and Song Qing smiled slightly, long time no see. Lin Yuejian, Ying, and Song Qing are all good friends they have known from memory, including Chen Xingyu and the young man Lu Qingjiang who just shouted. The few of them were friends who had known each other since childhood and had a very good relationship. However, after graduating from elementary school, Lin Yuejian followed her parents to another city and went for 4 years without coming back. At that time, they didn't have a phone or contact information, so they lost contact for many years. However, both Ying and Song Qing are very concerned about Lin Yuejian in their hearts. Ying took Lin Yuejian's hand and sat down at the dining table. You don't know how happy and excited I was when I heard the news of your return from Lugo. I didn't sleep all night last night. Look at my dark circles, they're almost falling to the ground. Lin Yuejian took a closer look and found that the dark circles under her eyes were indeed heavy, and even the makeup cream couldn't cover them. However, at this moment, Song Qingdao beside him said, Don't believe her nonsense. She stayed up all night because she was addicted to games. Sometimes the dismantling comes too quickly, like a tornado. Ying felt a bit embarrassed and said, No way, I just went to play games because I couldn't sleep. Song Qing, do you think Xiaoya believes you? Ying immediately looked at Lin Yuejian. Lin Yu felt a bit embarrassed as she was sandwiched in the middle. In the end, she nodded and hesitated, saying, Believe it. Right. Song Qing. Pop. This one is very soulful. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Being bitten by a dog and slapping the dog with the backhand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Being bitten by a dog and slapping the dog with the back hand. After the three girls finished talking about the past, Lin Yuejian interjected, "Do you still remember me when I saw you that month?" Lin Yuejian was about to say that she remembered when she heard Yi Yingying say, he was the land dog who went to play and was bitten by a dog when he was a child, and then slapped the dog with his back hand. As soon as these words were spoken, Chen Xingyu, who was aloof, laughed. Unfortunately, Yi Yingying still spoke seriously, afraid that Lin Yuejian wouldn't remember who it was. Lu Qingjiang. I really thank you. Lin Yuejian didn't originally remember this, but when Yi Yingying said so, she couldn't help but laugh and nodded, "I remember. Yi Yingying and Xie Xiao, he's on his way over." This Lin Yuejian also remembers, they have known each other since childhood. "We had the best time back then, and although we are doing well now, it's a pity that you haven't been here for years, and you don't even know that I miss you so much. Song Qing, I can testify to this. Yingying really mentions you from time to time, and now she can be considered looking forward to you." Lin Yu didn't expect that they would always remember her, and her heart was somewhat moved. "I also miss you very much. Why don't you come back to play?" Lu Qingjiang asked casually. Lin Yuejian pursed her lips and remained silent. Chen Xingyu, who had been silent for a while, suddenly interjected, "Why are you talking so much? Hurry up and order your order, I'm starving." Lu Qingjiang, who was inexplicably attacked, was a bit innocent, but he didn't take it to heart either. He waved and called for the waiter to come and order. The topic shifted like this. Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief inexplicably. If anyone asked, she really didn't know what to say. The waitress came over with the menu and gently asked, "May I ask what you want to eat?" The menu happened to fall in front of Chen Xingyu. He glanced at it and pushed out the menu, saying, "You can order it, I can do anything." So coincidentally, it was pushed until Lin Yu met. Lin Yuejian picked up the menu and glanced at it. The dish names were simple and familiar, but she didn't know what to eat. At this moment, Yi Yingying said, "Their pickled pork with pickled vegetables is delicious, and the mushroom and chicken soup are also good." Lin Yuejian thought for a moment and said, "Then let's have pork with pickled vegetables. I love eating pickled vegetables." After speaking, she handed the menu to Yi Yingying. Yi Yingying doesn't know what to eat either. This shop has been coming frequently lately and she has eaten almost every dish. She looked up at Lu Qingjiang across from her and found him playing with his phone. She kicked him and asked, "What are you eating?" "Whatever, I'm not picky about food," Lu Qingjiang thought for a moment. Song Qing, I won't pick either. The problem of ordering suddenly fell on Yi Yingying. She ordered a mushroom fried chicken and a green vegetable. Song glanced lightly at his phone and then added, "Add a potato chip and stir-fry the meat. Xiao likes it." Yi Yingying. Okay. After placing the order, the three girls continued to chat, with Lu Qingjiang occasionally interjecting and Chen Xingyu playing with his phone throughout. Yi Yingying is a chatterbox with endless words to say, even though Lin Yuejian has been separated from everyone for so many years, having her around won't be awkward. "Oh, by the way, which school are you studying at when you come back this time, Yu?" "They are all in the same school, but in different classes." Lin Yuejian said, "First middle school." Yi Yingying, "Come to the same school as us." Song Qing, "I just don't know which class I'm in." Lin Yuejian doesn't know how the school will arrange it. "It doesn't matter which class we are in, as long as it's in the same school, we can play together." Yi Yingying thought very well. Song Qing, "That's also true." Considering that a chapter of 2,000 words may be a bit long, it was changed to 1,000 words, end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Health is the most beautiful. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 4. Health is the most beautiful. Xie Xiao arrived just 1 minute before the meal started. "Sorry, there was a bit of traffic jam on the way and we arrived late." Lu Qingjiang joked, if you wait any longer, we'll all be full. The fact is that the dishes have just been served. After Xia Xiao sat down, Lu Qingjiang introduced him, this is a monthly meeting. Compared to when I was in elementary school, isn't there a significant change? Xia Xiao only then noticed Lin Yuejian and fixed his gaze. A beautiful and fair-skinned woman. Compared to before, the changes are not as significant. Lin Yu used to have a slightly dark complexion, but now she has turned into a cold white skin. Her beautiful little face has also grown, and she can look back 100% when walking on the road. Lin Yu smiled slightly as she met his gaze. A smile is even more beautiful, it's incredibly sweet. Xia Xiao nodded and said, it's really big. Chen Xingyu beside him said, Lin Yu felt a bit embarrassed when she was told, so she lowered her head and focused on eating. Song Qing blushed slightly when he saw her face and joked, you guys are so embarrassed about Yu, but we haven't seen each other for a few years. Yu has really grown a lot more beautiful. Yi Yingying nodded frantically and said, I also feel that your face is so pale. To be honest, did you put on makeup? Lin Yuejian was a little innocent. No, I applied lipstick. Yi Yingying didn't believe it and even reached out to touch it. Lin Yuejian's face was white and tender, and her hand felt very good. Not really. How on earth did you achieve such whiteness, Yu? Her skin is fair now, but compared to Lin Yu, it's still far behind. Lin Yuejian shook her head and said, I don't know, maybe it's because I rarely go out and don't see much sun. Song Qing, who was born with wheat skin, envied him and said, if only I could turn white without sunbathing. Your skin color is also very beautiful, each with its own beauty. Xia Xiao's tone was light and emotionless. Lu Qingjiang nodded in agreement and said, I think Lao Xia is right. No matter what skin color, health is the most beautiful. You girls, don't keep pursuing by Yosho, eat more so thin and wait for the wind to blow before you run away. He even put a plump piece of pork belly into Yi Yingying's bowl and said, our coastal area is often frequented by typhoons. Yi Yingying frowned as she looked at the fat in her bowl, full of disgust. The next second, she threw it back to Lu Qingjiang and said, if you want to eat it yourself, I want to eat something thin. Lu Qingjiang. TSK, don't give it to her yet, don't pull it down, he'll eat it himself. Then he happily ate that piece of fat into his stomach. After a meal, the atmosphere was still very harmonious. Lin Yuejian quickly melted in, chatting and laughing with Yi Yingying and Song Qing. Only Chen Xingyu didn't interrupt much, so he sat quietly eating, appearing somewhat out of place. Lin Yuejian would occasionally lift her eyelids to glance at him. If she hadn't known he was always quiet, she would have doubted whether he was isolated. After eating and drinking enough, Lu Qingjiang touched his stomach and let out a heartless hiccup, asking, Brother Yu, will you wait to go to the internet cafe to play games? I'm 1 star away from becoming the king. Chen Xing didn't even lift his eyelids and said directly, I won't go. Why? Chen Xingyu said, I don't want to go. Lu Qingjiang didn't give up and continued to ask, why don't you want to go? Anyway, there's no one at home. Instead of lying down bored at home, it's better to go to an internet cafe and play games. Before Chen Xingyu could speak, Lin Yuejian weakly raised her hand. Everyone's gaze fell on her in unison. Including Chen Xingyu. Lin Yu said. Someone is here. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Yugo is a gentleman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Yugo is a gentleman. Everyone frowned, not quite understanding what Lin Yuejian meant by these words. I said, there is someone in his family. Speaking, Lin Yuejian also pointed to Chen Xingyu across from her. Someone. Who? Lu Qingjiang looked at Chen Xingyu with a confused expression on his face. Didn't uncle and aunt go on a business trip? Did you hide your younger siblings at home, brother you? The latter half of the sentence is a joke. If Chen Xingyu hadn't managed his facial expressions well, his eyes would have rolled over. He couldn't help but say, Xiaote, you're talking nonsense here. Since there are no hidden girls, where did your family come from? Xia Xiao was also puzzled. At this moment, Yi Yingying joked, who said there's no one left. There's people in the bathroom, people in the kitchen, people under the bed. People are everywhere, okay. Chen Xing became increasingly outrageous as he met everyone and wanted to explain quickly, but as soon as his words came to his mouth, someone took the lead. Lin Yuejian spoke weakly again, that person, it's me. Lu Qingjiang said oh twice, very calm. Next second, what? Yi Yingying and Song Qing also looked at Lin Yuejian with a bewildered expression on their faces. What does it mean? Lin Yuejian could only grit her head and explain, I live at his house. Yi Yingying, why? Lin Yuejian could only explain briefly why she stayed at Chen Xingyu's house. After listening, everyone exclaimed, oh, twice, indicating that it was so. Lu Qingjiang, I just said why did brother you stop playing well? It turns out it's because of this, that cheap grin made it clear that nothing good was on the mind. Not only that, he also turned to Lin Yuejian and said, remember to lock the door when sleeping at night, so as not to let someone. Before he could even speak, Chen Xingyu couldn't bear to give him a big prize. Why is there so much nonsense? Lin Yuejian said, puff. Yi Yingying laughed happily when she saw Lu Qingjiang being beaten. You, don't listen to Lu Go's nonsense. Yu Go is a gentleman and wouldn't do that kind of sneaking into a girl's room at night. Lin Yuejian nodded and said, I know. Chen Xingyu glanced at her without saying anything. After dinner, everyone dispersed. Lu Qingjiang kidnapped Chen Xingyu and dragged Xia Xiao to the internet cafe to play games. Yi Yingying and Song Qing, two girls, have a slightly stricter family education and cannot return home after 9 o'clock. After watching a few people ride away, Chen Xingyu turned around and asked Lin Yuejian, is there anything I need to buy? Lin Yuejian nodded and said, yes. There's a supermarket across the street, buy it and go back, Chen Xingyu said with a faint tone. Lin Yuejian said, okay. The two of them walked towards the supermarket together. Chen Xingyu didn't have anything to buy, but considering that the girl had a lot of miscellaneous things, he picked up a shopping cart at the entrance. Lin Yuejian wanted to buy daily necessities and headed straight to the living area. After taking my mouthwash cup, toothbrush, towel, I realized that I had forgotten to take a shopping cart. As soon as she turned her head, Chen Xingyu pushed the shopping cart and stood behind her. She looked at the shopping cart, then at Chen Xingyu playing with his phone, and finally said, thank you. Then he put the things inside. Chen Xingyu. After finishing her daily necessities, Lin Yuejian went to the snack area and filled her shopping cart before checking out. Coming out of the supermarket, Chen Xingyu was carrying a bag of things in one hand, and Lin Yu felt embarrassed when she saw her hands empty. Why don't you give it to me separately? The car has arrived, let's look for it, Chen Xingyu said. Then he told Lin Yuejian the license plate number. Lin Yuejian had to first search for where Chen Xingyu's ride-hailing car was. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Adding a WeChat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Adding a WeChat. Lin Yu looked left and right, but couldn't find where Chen Xingyu's car was. Just when she wanted to say she hadn't seen it, a white small car parked steadily in front of her. At first glance at the license plate, it was the one Chen Xingyu mentioned. Lin Yuejian said, I have an inexplicable feeling of being deceived. In line with her gaze, the person involved walked over without blushing or panting, opened the back seat door, and saw that she was still standing still. He lazily moved his lower lip and said, don't go. Lin Yu opened her mouth, but in the end, she didn't say anything. She walked over and bent down to get into the car. Chen Xingyu put his things away before getting on the car, and confirmed the phone number and address with the driver before departing. There was no communication along the way, and everyone played their own games. The atmosphere inside the car was too quiet. It's neither early nor late to get home, it's exactly 10 o'clock. Chen Xingyu kindly helped Lin Yuejian take all the things she had bought upstairs, and then stood at the door to introduce her family. On the second floor, except for my parents' room, everything else is a guest room. There are sports equipment in the living room that you can use as you please. There will be a nanny who regularly comes to clean the house, and an aunt who cooks. However, recently my aunt has taken some time off. If you want to eat anything, you can order takeout or go out to eat. If you want to make it yourself, the kitchen is at your disposal. Lin Yu nodded and listened attentively. Okay, I understand. Chen Xingyu thought for a moment, but didn't know if he had missed anything to explain. He could only add, in short, you can go to your home and use things as you please. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Lest the little girl feel like this is not her home and dare not touch anything. And Mrs. Chen has instructed to take good care of this guest. If she doesn't take care of him properly, Mrs. Chen will peel off his skin. Lin Yuejian continued to nod and said, okay, thank you, Brother Xingyu. Chen Xingyu nodded and didn't say anything more, then turned around and walked towards his room. When he placed his hand on the doorknob and was about to push the door in, the soft voice of the little girl rang out again. Star encounter brother. Chen Xing encountered confusion and turned around. He didn't speak, but his slightly furrowed brow seemed to be saying. Is there anything else? Can you add a WeChat account? Lin Yu, who is so old, has never taken the initiative to ask a boy for WeChat. This is the first time. She felt a little embarrassed and said, well, if I have anything to do with you, it would be more convenient. Chen Xing remained silent for 2 seconds, took out his phone from his pocket, clicked on the WeChat QR code, and handed it to Lin Yu to scan. With a beep, Lin Yu saw Chen Xingyu's WeChat appearing on her phone screen. Avatar in pure black, username. XY. WeChat account, not available. Lin Yu glanced at Chen Xingyu and thought to herself, this person seems a bit bored. But she didn't say anything and quickly added Chen Xingyu's WeChat account. Chen Xingyu's phone shook briefly, and he clicked on the screen to apply through Lin Yuejian's friend. The little girl's avatar is very cute, it's a white golden bear. He glanced at it twice, then put away his phone and went back to the bedroom. Lin Yuejian also returned to her room and tidied up the things she had just bought at the supermarket. Besides daily necessities, the most she buys is snacks. There happened to be a snack cart in the room, and Lin Yuejian put away her beloved snacks one by one. It's getting late when she finishes tinkering around, so she dug out her pajamas from the wardrobe and went to take a shower. Coincidentally, Chen Xingyu just came out of the bathroom, holding a towel in his hand, wiping his dripping hair. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. How does it feel to have multiple little sisters at home? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. How does it feel to have multiple little sisters at home? Lin Yuejian came out of the bedroom and happened to collide with him. The two of them exchanged a glance, and the air was somewhat quiet. Chen Xingyu probably didn't expect her to be so clever. At this moment, she came out to take a shower holding her clothes, and her hand movements paused for a moment. Lin Yu regained her senses and raised the corner of her mouth, revealing a sweet smile. She greeted him and said, Brother Xingyu. Chen Xingyu didn't want to give a response, but he thought it was a bit impolite to ignore others, so he let out a Lin Yuejian didn't have much to say. After greeting him, she hugged her clothes and took a shower. Chen Xingyu then returned to her room. I thought to myself, it seems that I need to plan my bathing time again in the future. After simply drying his hair, Chen Xingyu sat on the esports chair and played games. Lu Qingjiang's loud voice came from his phone. Yuga, how does it feel to have multiple little sisters at home? Little sister. Chen Xingyu frowned slightly. Lu Qingjiang thought that Chen Xingyu didn't understand who he was referring to, so he explained, Yuejian, if I remember correctly, she is smaller than us, shorter in stature, and speaks softly, isn't she like a little sister? Chen Xingyu played games while recalling Lin Yuejian's behavior in his mind. Always speaks softly and softly, giving people a feeling of timidity, really like a little sister. Before he could speak, another person's voice came from his phone. You say that, and it feels like the changes in the moon are really significant. What kind of personality did she have in the past? Lu Qingjiang said, indeed, she was just a tomboy back in elementary school. Now she's like a girl's family, with soft and sweet words that make her look lovable. Chen Xingyu tugged at the corner of his mouth and smiled, I can't say it's all a facade. Lu Qingjiang, what do you mean by this, brother you? Chen Xingyu lazily uttered a sentence. The rivers and mountains are easy to change, but the nature cannot be changed. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingjiang didn't quite agree. Tisk, brother you're really a person. Don't you expect girls to become gentle and cute? As the saying goes, when women grow up, they become more and more beautiful. It's like meeting the moon. I'm sure that when school starts, there will definitely be many boys chasing the moon at school. Chen Xingyu shook his head, too lazy to say so much to him. Anyway, he's not very interested in what Lin Yu saw. As the idea fell, he heard a knock on the door. At first, Chen Xingyu thought he had heard wrong, but soon he heard it again. Lin Yuejian's voice also came in through the door. Brother Xingyu, are you there? The little girl's voice was neither big nor small, just enough to be heard clearly. Chen Xingyu was playing games with his microphone on, and the two people on the other end of his phone also heard him. Lu Qingjiang smiled and said, Yuejian's sister is looking for you. Chen Xingyu. He first turned off the microphone before kicking off the chair and getting up to open the door. Lin Yu saw him standing at the door wearing pajamas, and immediately put a smile on his face as she handed him the things in her hand. This is the snack I just bought at the supermarket. I'll give it to you as a token of gratitude. Chen Xingyu didn't have the habit of eating snacks, but he still took it over and said, is there anything else? Lin Yu glanced at his phone and saw that it was King's Pesticide, and the game was in progress. She quickly shook her head and said, no more, you can play games. I'll go back to my room. Chen Xingyu let out another, and watched the little girl return to his room before closing the door and casually placing the snacks on the table. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Little Girl's Sincerity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Little Girl's Sincerity. After turning on the microphone, Lu Qingjiang's loud voice came out. Like a soul-calling child, Yuga, are you still there? Chen Xing moved his lips and said angrily, if you have any fart, please let it go. But I don't want to fart now, said Lu Qingjiang. Chen Xingyu. Xia retorted, what you said is like farting to us, so what do you want to say? Let's say it now. Lu Qingjiang felt that this was a bit of a deception. But he still chuckled and farted, Yugu, why is Yuejian's sister looking for you? You can feel how much gossip Lu Qingjiang has through the screen. Chen Xingyu gave me a bag of junk food, he said with a calm tone and no emotion. Lu Qingjiang jokingly said, where is that junk food? It's just a sincere little girl, okay. Chen Xingyu glanced at the swollen food on the table and remembered what Lin Yuejian had said. He smiled faintly. So it seems that the little girl still knows how to be grateful. The next day, without the sound of an alarm clock, Lin Yu slept until she naturally woke up. The weather today is particularly nice, with dazzling sunlight shining through the glass into the room. Lin Yuejian stretched lazily and glanced at the clock by the bedside. 9 o'clock in the morning, neither early nor late. She lifted the blanket and got up, first changed clothes, and then went to wash up. The whole small Western-style building was quiet, except for her voice. Chen Xingyu probably hadn't woken up yet. Lin Yu saw that she was a bit hungry, so she went to the kitchen to take a look. Chen Xingyu and Chen Auntie both told her that there was no need to be too reserved and that household items could be used casually, so she was not too polite. There are still plenty of ingredients in the refrigerator, but her cooking skills are not very good, so she has no plans to cook. When she found luozifen in the cabinet, her eyes flashed. Liuzhou luozifen with cabbage in the refrigerator is her favorite. Although it is not suitable to eat this food on an empty stomach, Lin Yuejian still takes luozifen and cabbage, prepares a pot, and puts some water into it to boil. Half an hour later, Chen Xingyu, whose eyes were drowsy, smelled the scent. Standing at the kitchen door, I saw Lin Yuejian sitting at the dining table, with a ceramic bowl larger than her face in front of her, chattering profusely. Perhaps sensing his gaze, Lin Yuejian, who was working hard, suddenly looked up. At the moment when Chen Xing met her gaze, she was still muttering a pearl powder in her mouth. That looks a bit comical and cute, silly and cute. Chen Xingyu almost couldn't help but laugh. Lin Yu didn't expect someone to come suddenly. She was stunned for a moment and quickly ate the noodle into her stomach. Then she looked at Chen Xingyu and asked, "Do you want it?" Chen Xingyu frowned and didn't hide his disgust on his face. "This thing stinks to death." Seeing that he disliked his favorite luozifen, Lin Yu was not happy with Jiu, but she said patiently, "It's delicious, would you like to try it?" Chen Xingyu shook his head and said, "No, eating these things in the morning is not good for the stomach." Lin Yu exclaimed and saw that he didn't want to eat, so she didn't hesitate. Coincidentally, she just cooked a bag and ate it herself. Later on, I thought about using someone else's kitchen and food, but it seemed inappropriate not to prepare a portion for the owner. So he said again, "Do you want something to eat? I'll make it for you." "Can you still cook?" Chen Xingyu raised an eyebrow unexpectedly. Lin Yuejian said, "I know a little bit." Chen Xing glanced at her bowl of red luozifen and finally said, "Please help me cook an egg noodle, thank you." Lin Yuejian said, "Okay. Yuga now. Eating these things in the morning is not good for my stomach." Not long after, he. "Let's eat together. Ben Yu. It's really fragrant." End of this chapter. 9, Chapter 9. Can this be considered a dinner party? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Can we consider this as a dinner party? Chen Xingyu went upstairs to wash and change clothes. When he came down, Lin Yuejian just finished cooking. The little girl brought the noodles to the dining table, and because it was too hot, she pinched her own little ear, which looked quiet and cute. Chen Xingyu happened to see it, and he lifted his feet and walked over. Lin Yu saw him with a beautiful curve on her lips and a soft voice, "Are you here?" Chen Xingyu let out a sigh and then felt that he was too indifferent, so he added, "Thank you." Lin Yuejian said, "You're welcome." Before she could finish her noodles, she went halfway to cook noodles for Gu Wang. The little girl returned to her seat and started talking about her powder. Chen Xingyu is not picky eater either. Although the green vegetables and egg noodles look bland and tasteless, he still eats them very well and even finishes the big bowl. Lin Yuejian eats slowly, and Chen Xingyu has finished eating half of it. But she wasn't in a hurry either. She ate slowly, and in the end, she had to tidy up. Lin Yuejian thought so in her heart, but after finishing her meal, Chen Xingyu didn't leave and sat there playing a small game. The atmosphere in the kitchen was eerie quiet, and Lin Yuejian occasionally lifted her eyelids to glance at the person across from her. He remained in a sitting position without moving, just playing with his phone expressionlessly. The little girl was a bit puzzled, but in the end, she couldn't help but speak up. "Well, Brother Xingyu, why don't you have anything to do?" Upon hearing her voice, Chen Xingyu lifted his eyelids and lazily glanced at her. Although she didn't speak, Lin Yuejian understood a sentence from his expression. Do you have something to do? She thought to herself, it's okay, it's just that I feel uncomfortable eating while you're sitting here. Of course, she dare not say these words, after all, this is their home, and people can be wherever they want, she can't control it. Finally, Lin Yuejian could only smirk and say, it's okay, I just wanted to ask you. Chen Xingyu lifted his eyelids, with no emotion on his face, and spat out 2 words from his mouth. No. This is answering her question. Just now Lin Yu saw me and said nothing more. The atmosphere fell into a deathly silence again, and Lin Yuejian quickened her pace of chattering about fans, finally resolving her large bowl of fans in 5 minutes. As she put down her chopsticks, Chen Xingyu, who was sitting like a statue playing with his phone, also moved. He put his phone in his pocket and began to tidy up his job. Then, I took away what Lin Yu had seen. Lin Yuejian. Chen Xingyu remained silent and stood in front of the sink washing dishes. Lin Yuejian stared at his back for 3 seconds before realizing it. He has been sitting here not doing nothing, but waiting for her to finish eating and then washing dishes. The little girl blinked twice and didn't know what to say for a moment. I can't understand why there is such a dull person like Chen Xingyu who doesn't even say a word when doing things. However, it's pretty good. I didn't leave all the work to her. Chen Xingyu is mute, Lin Yuejian is not. After sorting it out in her heart, she looked at Chen Xingyu's back confidently and said, thank you, brother Xingyu. Chen Xingyu probably didn't expect her to say thank you. He was stunned for a moment before replying, it's reasonable for you to cook noodles while I wash dishes. Lin Yuejian said, so can we consider this as a dinner party? Chen Xingyu stopped talking. Lin Yuejian continued, let me tell you, I'm a bit abnormal. I like to cook, but I don't like cleaning and washing dishes. Chen Xingyu cooperated with her and said, it's really abnormal. Lin Yuejian's subsequent words were directly blocked in her throat. Looking at Chen Xingyu's back, I wanted Bang Bang to give him 2 punches. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Auntie has long regarded you as her own daughter in her heart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Auntie has long regarded you as her own daughter in her heart, but upon reflection, Lin Yuejian did not do so, nor did she care about him claiming to be abnormal. Instead, he asked with a good mood, in the future, I will be responsible for making food. Would you like to tidy up and wash the dishes? After the words fell, Lin Yu regretted seeing them. She had just arrived at someone's house, where did she have the courage to make conditions to the owner? The host also refused as she expected, not good. He refused very decisively. Lin Yuejian said, Cut, it's not easy to forget. The little girl closed her mouth and didn't speak. In just 2 or 3 bowls, Chen Xingyu finished washing them in the blink of an eye. He put things away, wiped away the water stains on his hands, and then left the kitchen. Seeing him leave, Lin Yuejian jumped off the chair and followed closely behind. Chen Xingyu's pace was calm, neither fast nor slow. As he walked, he seemed to remember something, but suddenly stopped. Following behind him, Lin Yuejian, who was only focused on playing with her phone and not looking at the way, stumbled into him in a daze. Oh, my goodness. Looking up at his eyes, Lin Yuejian said, what are you doing? Chen Xingyu, what's up with you? No, Lin Yuejian shook her head. Chen Xingyu. What are you doing with me? I didn't have it, I was just preparing to go back to my room, Lin Yuejian said confidently. Chen Xingyu was scolded and left speechless. He found that the little girl looked well behaved, but in fact, she was not at all well behaved. At least it's a bit twisted. Well, yesterday I was still soft talking, so I started arguing with him today. I feel like it won't take her a few days. Once she gets to know this place, she'll be able to argue with him. However, Chen Xingyu didn't argue with her. When he saw that she was fine, he turned around and left. In order to prevent him from saying that she was following him, Lin Yuejian changed her plan. She didn't go back to her room and stayed in the living room. Coincidentally, Aunt Chen Xingyu's mother, called her on WeChat. After connecting, Aunt Chen's kind and amiable voice came from her phone. "How about you? Are you still used to living at home? Have you ever been bullied by that kid Xingyu? If he hasn't treated you well, just tell Aunt and she will help you clean him up." Lin Yuejian habitually turned on hands-free, and Chen Xingyu, who had not yet walked far, listened in without hesitation. He said, At first glance, he sounded like his own mother, as if he were some kind of jerk. How could he possibly bully a little girl? It's funny. Aunt Chen asked so many questions in one breath that Lin Yuejian didn't know how to answer which one first. Because it was a video, the little girl had a smile on her face and spoke obediently. "No, Brother Xingyu is very kind to me." Chen Xingyu said, He has a conscience. He didn't continue to listen, quickened his pace and went upstairs. Upon hearing this, Aunt Chen felt relieved and said, "That's good. Uncle and Aunt won't be able to go back until next week. You can treat this place as your own home and feel free to contact Xingyu if you have anything to do. You don't need to be polite, do you know?" Lin Yuejian nodded and said, "Okay, I got it, Aunt Chen." "Aunt Chen. By the way, how does the room that Aunt has decorated for you feel? If you don't like it, I'll have someone renovate it for you." Lin Yuejian said, "I like it, thank you, Auntie." Aunt Chen said, "Harm, what's polite about you? You were all grown up under the care of your aunt. In her heart, she has long regarded you as her own daughter, so you don't need to be polite with her. Just treat yourself as your own family. If you have any needs, feel free to tell your aunt. Don't feel embarrassed, you know." Aunt Chen was so enthusiastic that Lin Yuejian couldn't resist. "But hitting my aunt is very good to me, just like being a biological mother." Lin Yuejian's heart, which had been neglected all along, received some warmth at this moment. End of this chapter.